Couch Co-op. Couch Co-op. Couch Co-op.
Hello, Couch Co-opers, Couch Potatoes, and Couch Codependents. This is the Couch Co-op Show. I'm your host, Ian. Please do me a favor and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Couch Co-op Shows. All one word, no hyphen. I have to do the spiel. I haven't done the spiel in a very long time because I've been super lazy, but I'm gonna try. I try to be a little bit more professional this show, and trying to impress our guest. Anyway, no. Now let's get to the show. Joining me on the couch tonight is DJMMT, or just DJ. Thank you for so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. How you doing this evening?
Good. For me, it's Saturday because I'm in Taiwan. It's 2 p.m. So I've not really done much today. I've just I got up really late. I walked my dog and then I ate breakfast. That's pretty much it.
You're in the future. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, and it's 11 o'clock at night. So you're in the future. You know, what's it feel? No,
it's still bad. Trump
still
is still
bad.
President, and all of it.
No, I mean, Trump is bad, but like we got some news. We got some news this evening, this morning. Chadwick Bosworth passed away, 43 of cancer. Boseman. Why did I say Bosworth? My bad. Black Panther. He was in 42. He was in The Blood. Five Bloods with Spike Lee. Great film. Holy cow!
He's
great
also James Brown. I can't
James
remember
Brown.
the film was called.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He was a James Brown movie.
Yeah. I mean, just like, and man, they kept that secret tight. Like,
yeah, I had no idea. But see, what's crazy is he got diagnosed in 2016.
Yeah.
Which that's the year Captain America: Civil War came out.
So they're shooting Black Panther.
He's had cancer the entire time he's been Black Panther.
It's crazy.
That's like because like they probably filmed 2015, but he got diagnosed in 2016. So he probably filmed Civil War with no cancer,
right?
And then got it while they were releasing the movie.
Or he already had it, but he finally went to the
he probably exactly. But so then that means he filmed Black Panther, he filmed Infinity War, and he filmed Endgame, all with cancer.
And it's not like his character's like this, like it's an acrobatic.
It's an athletic character. Yeah, exactly. Like that reminds me of Raul Julia, who was M. Bison in
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. He had cancer while filming the movie. And it's just like, geez, like I can't even imagine.
And it's just tough, man. It's just like another thing, another notch on this year, man. This year has just been brutal.
Exactly.
So our hearts and thoughts go out to the family, and all that stuff. We've said it before for other people or other things, but it's just like, man, again, another thing. I'm 43.
Exactly.
I don't know how old you are, but I'm 42.
31.
I'm 42.
31. Yeah.
So I'm like right there. Like I should probably I should get tested, and I'm like, Jesus. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I've had multiple cancer deaths in my family. Like it's really tough.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's tough, and so our thoughts go out to them. Not to take down. I mean, let's think. I mean, he did a lot of positive. I mean, his character alone in Black Panther built up. Yeah. Rest in power. So it's just let's move on and let's try and put on a happy face. And DJ, again, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Reaching out to Twitter. You're very vocal on Twitter. I enjoy your Twitter account.
Thank you.
One of the things we love to do on our show is just kind of get your origin in video games. So I'm just kind of curious, like, where did who gave it to you? What was that first game? What was that person that introduced you to video games that very first time?
Like people, that question's weird for me because like I was born in '89, and so like in '89, gaming was like already a thing, but not like a thing, right? So like my oldest memories of gaming are like I do remember playing Pong, but like Pong is from before my time, right?
Right.
So the two games I remember most vividly are I used to play Frogger in the arcade. Like the old Frogger
Right.
was like one
Right.
of my favorite games, and I used to play a lot of Mrs. Pac-Man.
Gotcha.
But then I also like had like my dad was is like a gamer, but and so like I had like an NES, and I used to play Mario Brothers and never beat it. And then I had a Sega Genesis, which I used to play with my dad, Pac-Man and Toe Jam and Earl 1, right? So like I remember like I used to play all these really old games, and then I just sort of kept playing. So like I got a SNES, and then I got a PlayStation, and then a PS2 and a GameCube, and like I've kind of just been gaming my whole life because my dad and my uncle's game. Like my uncle is like a big racing guy, and he's owned every Gran Turismo from one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I've
Yeah.
been like seeing like I just sort of grew up in games. I used to go to an actual arcade at the mall, like those old like 80s and 90s films. Like that was like my life.
Right.
And so I just sort of kept gaming. The way I sort of got into more like writing about gaming and more critical stuff was that like when I was in college, I studied film, and I really thought like, gaming I always felt like gaming is art like film is. Like I
Oh,
know that's always
of
been like a
course. Of
debated
course.
point for a lot of people, but for me
Shouldn't
I was
be.
like, no, 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 it's the same sort of thing. And what we kind of are seeing more now, which I won't like I can't take credit for it because I'm not famous enough, but like I always felt like we should talk about gaming in the sort of critical way we talk about film. And so because I have a bachelor's in cinema studies, I'm used to like talking about film critically. And so I started my blog, which I've now been doing for about like 5 or 6 years. I started with the idea of, well, let's talk about gaming the way you talk about film critically. And so
Right.
if you read my blog, now in later years, like I do a lot more casual stuff as well, but
Right.
like the sort of premise of my blog was started as like I want to write critical gaming content so that like 20 years from now a college professor would like teach it as an essay.
Well, let's not get too deep into the blog stuff. Let's.
Okay. Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
I'll ask you questions about that. Let's. We got time.
Yeah, yeah.
What was there a moment like back in the day when you were playing video games? Were you always big into video games, or was there like a moment in video games where like
So
this is like the game and I'm into it now?
okay, yeah, no. So the moment where I changed from like a sort of kid who plays video games to like I want to work in gaming in some way
Right.
was God of War 1 for the PS2.
Okay.
And I remember because like the opening sequence, not the opening sequence, but like the first level when you get to the Hydra boss, which is like the first big boss.
Right.
I remember I'm playing it and my uncle was watching it. And that was like the first time we had like QTEs, like God of War was like they invented QTEs essentially.
Right.
And like I
God
remember
damn them.
the high see, I always liked QTEs. I don't know why people hate them. Like they get overused. I know they do get overused, but like the general concept I've always liked.
Okay.
But so that boss sequence when you fight the Hydra and finish him off, and it's like
Right.
Kratos backflips off of the head and then does this whole thing, and I remember watching that and going, "Oh my gosh, this is so much more than what I ever thought gaming could be." Like even after already playing games for probably 10 plus years, it was like like this is special. Like I want to work
Right.
in this. I want to write games. I want to like make games. Like this is like this is not just like a casual sort of like whatever. Like this is um, the future basically, right? And now we have that. Right now you have games that are like, you have
Right.
your new God of War, you
Right.
have your Last of Us, you have Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like, yeah, like we've come so far.
I 100%
you
agree.
know
Like, I
Mm,
was not. I mean, I've played video games since Atari 2600 and
mm.
Nintendo and all through that shit. But I was never a big fan until I played Metal Gear Solid 2, and just
Okay,
the
my least favorite Metal Gear Solid.
my. That's great. It's my most favorite. It's fine. You can talk shit about it all you want, buddy. It's fine. Most people do, but it's my most favorite, and there's some personal reasons, but just because I had been away from video games for so long, just seeing that for the first time and how cinematic it was as
Yeah,
a
right.
film student and wanting to be a
Mhm.
filmmaker, it just kind of blew my mind. We won't get into the niche of Metal Gear Solid. We can save that for a discussion for another time. But I totally agree with you, man. I think at PS2 was kind of the beginning of cinematic video
Yeah.
games.
It like it's really when you changed over from like because like Mario Brothers has no cinematics, it just has screen
Right.
cards, and it's more gameplay. It's really more about the gameplay than the storytelling. But PS2, yeah, it's like when we really started went like we can tell stories, and we had story games before that, like
Oh
PS1.
yeah,
You
they
have
all
your
have
old
kind
Final
of a
Fantasy
story.
stuff.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, but like PS2 is when you really have like story. Like Final Fantasy 10 is my favorite Final Fantasy still, and it's a story, right? Like it's not just like the gameplay. It's like
It's not that
you're
blitzball.
I love Blitzball. I don't know why people hate Blitzball. Like I would play a standalone Blitzball sports game competitive. Like I don't know why people hate Blitzball. It's so good. It's
It's
so
fine.
good.
You're not gonna. You know what? I'm the least Final Fantasy person you need to talk to. Like I'm so far removed. I'm just gonna. I just threw it out there because it gets shit. It gets
It
shit.
does.
It
It gets
does.
a lot of shit.
No, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Hey, I got just another crazy question we like to throw at our guests. Can you name, or is it impossible for you? Do you have a game, your favorite game of all time? Like, can you like pinpoint that, or is it
I
like,
mean,
oh, that's
I
stupid? That's a
I
stupid
always
question.
say, well, no, I always say God of War, the original one,
Oh,
and
really?
and the reason I say that is because it's one of the last games that was like a like because now we have this sort of like sequel thing where every time a game comes out, it's made to have a sequel, right? Like
Right,
you
right,
like even like Ubisoft will say like, oh, we don't make standalone IPs anymore. We're making a game as part of a collection of games. Like that's just how the system works now because they don't want to spend the money on marketing a new IP just to kill it, right? Like God of War 1 is the only game in the franchise and in many franchises now current where if they had never made a God of War 2, the story still makes sense on its own. Like
right,
it you can
right,
you could end it with one and you could never get another God of War game. And it's like this was a full story, it was a full game, it was satisfying. We're good, like we it could be done. And after that, I can't. I'm sure there are other examples, but I can't think of any really great, memorable games that just are sort of like it's a standalone. There's no plot holes. There's no cliffhangers. It's just like yeah, we just made a story and it worked. Right, like Last of Us doesn't have that. When you play
right,
Last of Us 1, you're like, okay, I know there's going to be a Last of Us 2. There better be a Last of Us
right,
2.
right,
When you play, most games now, you play them and you go, yeah, there's going to be another one, right?
right,
Like
right.
Assassin's Creed, I've been playing since the first one, and I'm like, when am I going to get an ending? And it's like, you're never going to get an ending.
They
It's
don't
not going
want
to
an
happen.
ending. Ubisoft,
Yeah,
what?
exactly. Yeah. But God of War is the last game I remember playing that was like a triple A, just like showstopper game that also was like, we can stop here. We can stop here.
Where are
And none of the
you?
other God
Oh,
of Wars have that. None
well,
of like all the other God of Wars cliffhanger and there's no
right, right.
ending, and you're like, yeah,
Well,
so you
where
stop.
where are you on the how does that first God of War still hold up for you? Like on that discussion.
Yeah, so I played the last time I played it was it was when the year Ascension came out. So like 20, what was that, 15 or 16? I think was the last time I
Something like
played it.
that.
And it's still like I played the remastered version that time, and it still holds up. The gameplay still holds up, the storytelling still holds up. Obviously it's not like the new one where you have the axe flying through the air and all that new gameplay, which is really awesome. But like I think as far as like just a good sort of textbook example of how to make a solid game and write a solid game, I still think it holds up today. So yeah, that's why I still would say yeah, it's like my favorite game if I'm going to choose one. Right.
So God of War, is that the game then? So when do you start the block, or when do you get into video game writing? Is it what game makes you finally go over the edge and decide
Well,
that this is what,
so
or is God of War the one that makes you decide I'm gonna get into the game industry somehow, or is there
yeah,
other?
well, so okay, so God of War was I'm going to get into the game industry somehow, but I really wanted to go into writing games. That was like my goal when I was a younger. And like I worked towards that, and it's very difficult to break into that, and I'm still trying to break into that. And that's why I studied film, was I wanted to learn about like screenwriting and like writing stories with dialogue and at length. But the way I started the blog was when I graduated college. I basically, when I was in college, I was part of this like unofficial club, which was like uh, three of us who were like hardcore gamers, and we spent an exorbitant amount of time debating about games, right? Kind of like a podcast with no recording, essentially.
Exactly.
And we played games and we debated games, and I still talk to one of those two guys every day and debate games. And so basically, when I graduated college, I was like sort of getting into this idea, like I was saying, of like wanting to talk about games more critically and not just have it be like, that kiddie thing that people do. And so I have really sort of grandiose ideas in my head about like how to go about doing projects. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a book of essays about gaming. Like I'm just going to like do that because that's what people do apparently. Because in film you have all these
right.
because that's how, like, when I was studying film in college, you had to read books of essays about films. You have like these essays by all these famous philosophers of film, and I was like, okay, well, I just want to do that for gaming. I'm just going to write these serious critical essays about gaming. So I just wasn't even publishing them. I was just writing them. So I wrote like 10 of them, and it was like maybe 80, 100 pages of like content. And I was like,
Some of the games. What were some of the games?
Well, that's I'd have to go back and look. I can't even remember. But that's kind of the point.
Right.
What ended up happening was I was like, a lot of this content is time sensitive,
right?
And not all of it was about specific games. It was about game concepts a lot of time, like about like I wrote like a 20-page thesis about like multiplayer construction in games,
right?
And so then it was like a lot of this stuff, though, is time sensitive because the technology is constantly evolving and changing. The games are constantly getting replaced by new games. So then I was like, well, I have to get this stuff out now because people aren't going to want to read it later because they'll be like, oh, well, I don't care about, the third God of War. We're already at the sixth God of War.
Exactly.
Or I don't care about, BioShock 1. We're at BioShock, 3.
As
whatever,
technology
right?
catches up, it's like it becomes less important. Exactly.
So then that's how I started the blog, was basically I was like, I'll just start publishing it online so it's out there when it's relevant. And then hopefully it just gets viral on and whatever. And that's sort of how the blog started, was just me kind of saying, well, the book thing doesn't work if nobody wants to read it because it's too old.
Right. So what kind of as a gamer, what kind of gamer do you see yourself as? Like, do you play everything? Do you see yourself as this versus that? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a weird question, but like, are you?
I know it makes sense. Like, so for me, I really prefer single player games. Like, I know multiplayer is kind of though trending now.
Right.
We do, we still have great single player games like God of War. We have Horizon. We have Last of Us 2. Right. Like, we have options. But like I know that single player, and that's why Bethesda had their whole like safe single player campaign, right? Because there's always,
and then they go after a multiplayer game, Fallout 76. Like, what the fuck is that about? Anyway.
No, but like I always consider myself a sort of single player thing. I'll try any game, and that's just because I do review games. So like I'll play like I hate Battle Royale, but I'll try them out. Like I tried Hyperscape. I'm terrible at it.
That game sucks, actually. That game fucking
like,
I think it's awful. Anyway.
I'm bad at all of them, so I can't even comment because it's like, is it just me or is the game bad? I don't know.
The game's bad.
Like, I don't know. But basically I prefer single player, but I'll try anything. I prefer mostly adventure story games. But the genre, I don't really like. I love Mass Effect, which is a third-person shooter, but I also love Tomb Raider, which is and Uncharted, which are like third-person action. I love Doom. Like, I don't love FPS, but Doom is like my favorite FPS ever now. Like, and I've played a number of FPS, even though I don't really love them. But like playing I haven't played Eternal yet, but the 2016 Doom, which I played this year for the first time, is like such a well-made first-person shooter. So like I'll try anything, but my preference is always like a third-person single-player story game.
It kind of seems funny that I would ask you, like, what is your favorite type of game? When you went to film school and you have kind of a narrative focus, it would seem kind of narrative-focused games would be your answer.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you have? what do you think? What are some of the studios, some of the games that have nailed narrative focused games?
So, I mean, old BioWare was like I spent many years going, I want to work for BioWare, like because when they were doing Mass Effect, Dragon Age, KOTOR,
Right.
Jade Empire, right? Like they had like so many great story games, and now they just kind of fell off because of EA. Um, uh, so like they were great. I love Santa Monica Studio. A lot of people get irritated with Ubisoft, but I do enjoy playing their games. Their core gameplay works. Their stories need endings,
They
but I don't feel
vary,
like they
yeah.
tell bad stories. Like I liked Origins, Assassin's Creed Origins.
Oh, great.
I
Great
just
game.
played it, and like it's in my top 3 Assassin's Creeds, and I've played every Assassin's Creed starting from 1. So like, I think they do a decent enough job. I really liked. I just played Middle Earth: Shadow of Mordor, and I really liked the way that they did the story for the orcs. Like, because you never really get that look at that side of Middle Earth, and I
Right,
think they
right.
did a great job of giving you the culture and like sort of lifestyle of the orcs and giving them dialogue and like personalities. So I think there are studios that do a great job. And yeah, like Naughty Dog, does a great job. But even like Insomniac, I love Spider-Man. I love Ratchet and Clank. I can't wait to play the new one. It looks amazing. Um, uh, but I still will play, Nintendo games, even though Zelda will always save the princess and fight Ganon. I will still
Eh,
play them. They're
I'm
still
tired.
fun.
I'm tired of that stuff. I don't know. So and then so something I want to talk about is like your streaming is interesting. So you stream on Twitch.
Yes.
What is it?
Yeah.
DJMMT. It's
Like DJMT at Game Changer Doc is my Twitter, so I just kind of use that everywhere. But DJMMT is basically it. Like it's twitch.djmmt.
right.
Um,
But
but yeah, so
your Twitch. So you're gonna have to like help me a little bit here because I've watched some of your Twitch streams and I've watched some of your YouTube streams. Some beta stuff you'll play full length, but most of the time you'll play an hour. So and then you'll separate things as an episode each hour.
So basically, I know that the reason I'm not like a super big streamer, among many reasons, is like my format is weird and the time is off because like I live in Taipei, so like my audience is English speakers, but like it's the wrong time zone and everything. So the way I do it is sort of episodic because I don't have time to play, like, because I know like people now are like, oh, I do 3 hours, I do 5 hours, and I'm like, well, I'm married, I work full time, I have a
Right.
dog,
Right.
I can't stream for 3 or 4 hours. Like
Get
I can't
off me,
do it.
bro. Get off
Right.
me.
Like, yeah. And then the other thing about it, which is like this sort of weird thing about streaming, is like when I'm streaming, I'm really focused on my audience, which is what you're supposed to do when you're streaming.
Right.
But like I play story games where I'm interested in the story. So like it's like there's games where it's like there's games I don't even stream because I'm like, well, I don't want to stream because I want to focus on the game
Right.
and
Well,
not focus on talking to
that's my
people.
other question. Is like how do you only play an hour of a game when you're into it?
But it's because when I'm streaming, I'm focused more on the audience than the game,
Okay.
and so
Is
that's
that
how I'm
hard
sort
though?
of
I guess
able.
that's what I'm saying. Is that
It,
hard?
it it can be like it's hard with Ghost of Tsushima. Like I just started Ghost of Tsushima, and every time and like you said, I do like an hour, and every time I finish that hour, I'm like, but I would like to play more, but I gotta walk my dog, or like I like to play more, but like my wife needs me to do something, or like I don't have time to just play this for 4 hours during a stream, and it's just like like whereas but yeah, like it's easier for a beta when you're streaming just because like it's about testing, so it is more about discussing the quality of the game, what the gameplay is like, the audience has questions, and you're also less committed because it's a beta, it's going to end shortly.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I do the hour thing just because like an hour is a lot of times all the time I have, just as an adult, and everybody kind of gets that unless you have
Right.
unless you only stream as your profession, then you have all this time, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's a weird thing, and it's mostly just because my sort of philosophy of streaming is like, well, I play the games I want to play,
Right.
Like a lot of people stream what people want to watch. Like it's like that's why they do Call of Duty. It's not necessarily they love Call of Duty. It's like, well, they're good at it. People watch it. It works.
Right.
Whereas like I don't stream like that, and part of that is just because I don't really like multiplayer and I'm not great at it in most games. So me being like a Fortnite streamer wouldn't really work because you would just see me raging and dying first over and over again. And so like so I really just will pick games randomly from my backlog and say, this is what I want to play right now. Which a lot of times people are like, well, you know, I'll play like older games, like Shadow of Mordor, which is old now. It's like 3 or 4 years old. But I loved playing it.
It's a great game. It's a great game. How do you just find streaming in general? Like, do you enjoy it, or is it work for you? Like,
it's one of those things where it's like when I first started, it was work. Like it was very trying for me. It was very difficult. Like I didn't get it. I don't watch a lot of streams because I still am like, I don't get why you'd watch somebody else play video games unless you're like personally connected with that person. Like I'll watch friends stream sometimes because it's like, well, I know I'm talking to them. It's not really me watching them play games. It's me talking to them.
right.
But like for me to just go into a random stream is very difficult for me because I'm like, well, I could just be playing the game. And so like it was work for me at first, but over time, as I've sort of built a small following of like sort of regular viewers, it's become less work and more fun because I'm talking to friends, right?
Right.
So like the streams I really enjoy are when the chat is active. But when the chat is dead, which happens often enough, it's a lot harder because you still have to talk, you still have to be active, even when you're not really having an active chat. So then it's like I'm trying to play the game, but I'm also trying to talk to the chat that doesn't really exist. And like it becomes more work. So it's like the streams that are really active chat are really fun. They don't feel like work at all because it's just like, well, I'm just playing a game and talking to friends.
Right.
So like it's one of those things where like I don't really like at some point you have to admit like maybe you're not going to make an income from this, you're just doing it for fun, right? Like everybody starts saying like I'm going to become the next whatever, and then like
not unless you're streaming Fortnite or Call of Duty.
well yeah exactly, but it's also got to be great, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, like,
it's got to be good.
Like I for me it's just I do it for fun, and it's also useful because like I work in the tech industry, so it's good for my resume to have like camera time and like
you understand it, you understand the technology.
Yeah, exactly. So like that is definitely a part of it, is it's like a self-serving thing as well,
right?
So yeah, I do it, I enjoy it. I also really like cataloging my gaming, so like I do sometimes go back and watch old streams, and it's like, oh, I remember playing this game, and like this was so cool, this moment. And so that is an interesting thing. Like when you go back and look at like years old streams, and you're like, oh, I remember playing this thing, and like, and also you can see the evolution of my content. Like when I first started, I didn't even have a camera, I didn't have a mic, I was just playing the games silent.
Right.
And like and I enjoyed that. Like I was just like playing the game and recording it, and it was fun. But I kept having people go, hey man, get a mic.
Yeah, but I'm safe. I'm safe without you seeing me or hearing me.
Yeah, it's that, but it's also like I can just like focus on the game. I didn't have an overlay, right? Like one of the things I hate is when you start a new game and then you're like, oh, my overlay sucks for this UI. Like the HUD is in the wrong places, the camera's over the life bar, so I got to move things around, and you're like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And so like it was like I would play no talking, no camera, and people would go, dude, get a mic. And then I was like, okay. And so like I have all these old videos of like I used to play this game called Tokyo Jungle, which was really fun.
Yeah. That's a great game.
Like,
I wish they would. That's the dog's fucking
so
game.
Like I wish they'd make more of them. But like I used to just do these long videos of it where I do the survival mode, and it would be like
that game's
100
wild
years as like the rabbit or something, right? Like, and I'll still get comments on the videos. Like today I got a comment on one of the videos, and this video is from like 5 years ago, and it was just, but I didn't talk or anything, it was just like me playing the game. And then I got a mic because people were asking for the mic, and then I got a camera because people were asking for the camera, and so now like I stream like everybody else does. But like it's cool to see that evolution,
progression.
Like,
yeah.
You can see like, oh, I remember this, and you can also see like the quality of my stream content, because like my computer used to be really bad because I used to stream on a laptop, but then I built a PC, and like I streamed through my PS4 for a long time because I didn't have a good computer, but now I have like a computer that works,
Right.
and like my camera's better, so like you can see this evolution of the streaming. So it's cool to like see that history.
Right. So my other question then, obviously you're on Twitch, you're on YouTube, you're on Twitter. You're vocal on Twitter. You're very vocal on Twitter.
I
I
try
will.
to be.
One thing I will say, I love that you say good night gamers and good morning gamers. How did that start? Just out of
So
curiosity.
yeah. So well, okay. So part of it was the fact that I work for a tech company, which I won't name, but like it's a big PC hardware company that pretty much anybody who's into PC building knows. And so at one point I was running the social media. Like I was literally the guy who had to like log in every morning,
That's cool.
look at all the tweets. It's a very interesting experience. It's fun, but it's also weird. But so what I started doing on there was the good morning. I just was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this. And people loved it. Like
Right.
people responded to it, even though it was like a corporation Twitter account, people still appreciated it. And because it just was like personal. And so then I was like, you know what? I think this kind of thing people like because it sort
Right.
of brings the humanity back to social media, which is
Right.
kind of the problem with Twitter. That
Well,
it's
it's
all
funny because
text.
I don't respond to your text on the good morning or good
Yeah,
night, but I
yeah,
love reading it. I love seeing. Oh, he's
exactly.
going to
And a lot
bed.
of people tell me that. Like I like just seeing those. Like I've got one follower who will take the time every night to go, "Good night, man. Enjoy sleeping. I'm going to bed soon too." Right, and I appreciate that because it sort of makes it a personal like human experience, right? Because you don't really
Well,
know
we're also
who's behind.
interacting. Right now
Yeah,
you're kind of having a connection, and like especially in these times where things are kind of weird, especially in the U.S., it's kind
yeah,
of
exactly.
nice. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think it just sort of brings the humanity back to Twitter because like every Twitter is like a it's an avatar. You don't know if it's the real person's avatar. Like mine's not my face. Mine's a drawing I had produced for me. And like you don't know if it's like a brand or it's a team of people running a Twitter account. You don't know who's tweeting. You just think you know. So I think it's like a thing that sort of humanizes Twitter, which is why I do it.
Right.
Right.
So one of the things I find interesting, because like watching you on Twitch or YouTube, and then reading your Twitter posts, you seem like a really nice guy on Twitch and YouTube. You can be a little salty on Twitter sometimes, a little more salty. And I'm just curious, like, you just like, eh.
Well, okay, so part of that I would say comes back to the fact that Twitter doesn't really have your face connected to it. So like
Exactly.
you don't feel as like so for Twitch, there's definitely I'm not going to say it's not the real me, but it's like the me that I'm presenting with my face. So it's like, I don't want to offend to this like I have more of a problem with being offensive. I don't want
I get
to
it.
be cursing as much, right? Like I
Right.
don't want and also in my industry, like
I
people
curse
will
all
watch
the time, bro.
like well I curse more than I used to while streaming, but it's because especially when I'm playing multiplayer. Like if you watch me play like a multiplayer game on Twitch, it's very different than when I play a single player game. Like I get super competitive like when I'm playing like Roller Champions. I'm like getting angry and stuff. But so part of it is like people in my industry will go look at your streams. Like they'll go check.
Oh, sure.
So it's like you have to really be careful about how you present yourself, right? And and I don't want to invoke like, oh, the cancel culture or anything like that, but like it does affect your career. So like I do get saltier on Twitter, but I also would say Twitter, you're interacting with other people. So like my saltiness comes from seeing other people say things that I just don't agree with.
Right.
Whereas like when I'm streaming, I'm not playing multiplayer usually, and I'm not really talking to people other than in the chat. So there's not like something to be salty to, right? Like, because it's not like the protagonist or the antagonist in the game is going to offend me, right? Like,
Right.
So it's like, it's not this, like, that's kind of why my sort of, when you see me streaming, it's like, yeah, it's just me playing a video game. So I'm not getting angry. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, screw you, Liquid. Ah!
So this is kind of connected to that, though. Like, how do you just feel about the gaming community right now? Like in all, I mean, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, like just what is your opinion of how it goes down and your feeling of it?
So it's hard because it's like, especially now when you have like there's a lot of coded language now. Like if you say, oh, it's just some bad apples, then it's like, well, we have to, George Floyd and cops and all that stuff, right?
Right.
And then
Well,
and
bad
Gamergate.
apples spoil them
Yeah,
all.
exactly, right? So it's like, for me, I think that, well, okay, so one of the things I really don't like about the phrase the gaming community is that when you say it, there's this sort of underlying understanding that like the gaming community is mostly comprised of like straight white men from America, and that's
Right.
not true, but
True.
that's how it's treated, right?
Right.
So like one of the things I get really angry about is when a game from Japan will get like panned for something offensive, but it's like it's offensive to a specific group of people who live in America, whether it's like
And it's the stuff I
women.
love.
Like, well, because it's like I live in Asia, so my sort of
Exactly.
perspective is very different. And like there's stuff from like Japan where like women will get really angry in America about it, but like they don't consider how the women in Japan feel about it,
Right.
and they're fine with that content.
Right.
Like they like manga, they like anime, they like Weibo video games and stuff.
Well, there's also the
And
Karens that are just shaming, and like there's a lot of
well,
women
yes,
that are all just okay with it, and they don't want to shame it. There's a lot. There's a lot of dichotomy going
yeah,
on.
exactly. And so like for me, like the gaming community, it's like hard to just say how I feel about it, because it's like in general I like it. I have great friends who I only know through online to the gaming community. I have very good experiences on Reddit with like people helping me and giving me tips for like Monster Hunter World and
It's a
like
great
Assassin's
game.
Creed and like things like that. But then also, yeah, like I'll see the trailer for Suicide Squad and go, "Oh, this looks so cool." And then all the comments are, "Why is Deadshot black?" And I'm like, "Okay, like who cares?" Like why like it's like, so it
I'd
is
be more
like,
like, why is there no gameplay?
yeah, exactly. That's the right question. Why is there no gameplay? That's the correct
They've been working
question.
on that game for 20 years. Anyway,
But
my
yeah, so it's like I love the gaming community, but like it's definitely flawed, but it's flawed because like a lot of social media is the vocal minority, right?
right,
We act like it's the majority, but it's not.
right.
It's just the people who have the time and pay and like are willing to put in the effort to be vocal, which is a subset of everybody playing games and also playing games in English, right? Because like
Right.
there's a
Right.
Japan social media that we don't read Japanese, so we don't know. There's a China social media that's not even on the same platforms
Allowed,
that are
not even
still talking
allowed.
about.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. And so like the gaming community, the image of it, especially in America, is very different from what it actually is. And that's sort of like the weird thing, that it gets a bad rap because we're looking at a subset of it that is problematic.
Do you see
But
more of it on your end? Because I'm in America. Outside of America, do you see more of that or no?
well, so from my experience, America's the worst because it's where people are most willing to be negative and not feel bad about it. That's why you see like these weird things from Japan where it's like, oh, this guy helped this guy in Fall Guys learn how to climb one of the
Oh, right.
things.
I saw
And
that.
it's like this, like, yeah, right. And it's like it's a Japanese tweet. It's in Japanese. And it's like, yeah, this is the kind of stuff you see in Japan. Like gamers will help each other. They'll do all this wholesome stuff. They'll like do videos of them petting the cat in a video game. And like that's the kind of content they generate on social media versus like the stuff you're
Headshots.
getting. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so like when you're looking at it from the outside, you're very aware, like, this is very specific to America, but
Right.
that image is what's being painted as the gaming community. And you're like, but that's not accurate, right? Like, yeah.
I get it. How do you feel? Okay, so then my kind of last. We'll move on after this. I've been berating you with questions, but I've had all these questions for you. But how do you kind of feel about gaming journalism? You write blogs, you write reviews, but how do you feel about the current state of gaming journalism?
So I actually discuss this with people all the time. Um, So basically, if you were to go read any article or review from my blog, you will very quickly notice that it's not the kind of content that you'd ever see on IGN or GameSpot or whatever. And that's why they've never hired me. And I have applied many times to work in those sorts of uh, companies. And like the big difference between those companies and my content is my content is very critical and very like real, right? Like
Right.
I don't pull punches, I don't fluff piece. Like I'm willing to say things that will get people angry, but not with the intention of getting them angry. Because that's the thing about gaming journalism is it's like any other sort of thing today where it's ad revenue based on clicks, right?
Right.
So like there's sorts of techniques intentionally used to generate clicks. Like that's why you have all these hot take pieces, is because they know those will get people angry, and for whatever reason you will catch more flies with vinegar than honey on the internet. People love to comment when they don't agree with something. They don't really take the time when they agree with something. It's like you said, like you see the good night or good morning tweet, you don't
Right.
respond to it, you just go, oh, I liked that,
I like
right?
that.
But if I was to be like, screw you guys, your night's gonna suck, you'd probably go, hey man, like why do you got to be like that, right? That's
Right.
kind of how the internet works. So the reason people hate gaming journalism so much today is because it's meant for you to hate it, because you'll take the time to comment that you hate it.
But what do you feel
Whereas,
about it?
well, I get angry a lot because I read a lot of stuff where it's like, this is clearly an ad. This is clearly, a review that's, weird because it's trying to get you to buy because that's what the company wants. It's
Right. I feel
not
like
like,
most of the websites are mostly clickbait. Like
yeah, it is.
like
It is.
the 25 top ways to
Yeah,
start
list.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
I don't need you to tell me how to play Ghost of Tsushima. I'll just play it.
yeah,
Anyway,
no, it's true, and that's the funny thing is, I feel like Kotaku is actually one of the people who are more willing to let people write content similar to what I'll write, but like the people they happen to hire
or
have
they
super
did.
hot takes.
They
Like they
did.
have these super hot takes where it's like, okay, maybe that's not a great argument,
Right.
but like at least they're sort of supporting that type of content. Whereas like when you're reading like an IGN post, it's like, this is an ad. This is just a
Right.
commercial that you've generated for me to click so that you'll get ad revenue. So like the whole state of it is bad because it's all profit and advertising focused as opposed to content focused.
Well,
And that's kind of,
there's also a lot of opinion pieces when I just really
yeah,
want to know news
facts. Yeah, you want
facts,
news,
and it's just like a
right?
lot of
Yeah.
opinion pieces, and that drives me nuts. But this is your question, not mine. I'm sorry.
Well, no,
I'm
I mean,
forcing myself onto
oh
you.
no, no, that's no problem. I do the same thing all the time. But it's like the opinion. See, on one hand, I support the opinion piece concept
They can be
because
fun. They can be fun.
it opens up the door for more writers to get published works on those
And
platforms.
some discussion. Some good
And some
discussion.
discussion. The problem, though, is that it's very clear that they're publishing the ones that are going to offend people to get more clicks, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Like they're intentionally like inciting riots to
Exactly.
get clicks.
Exactly.
That's the problem, right? And also they tend to only hire and publish people who are already sort of famous most of the time. And that's the other problem, is that famous people have a different perspective on a lot of things than just a regular person is going to have, because they have a different, like life experience. So like what I would love to see is like opinion pieces from like normal people you've never heard of on IGN or on Kotaku or on, whatever. Like I would love it if it was like somebody who was writing blog posts like me that you've never really heard of, and it was like, hey, this guy wrote a piece about why he, thinks the foxes in Ghost of Tsushima are great, right? Like, right, like,
right.
or whatever. Like that kind of content would be cool, but the argument would be like, yeah, but that's not going to generate as many clicks because nobody knows that guy, and it's like, yeah, but make content that's good content. Forget about the clicks, but you can't forget about the clicks in 2020 because
That's money.
all the companies are money, it's money, and they're all owned by a parent company and investors, so you can't really like how do you escape that system, right? Like, and
Right.
that's it's hard. Like I don't write the blog for profit. That's why I can write the
Right.
content I write. It's because I'm not like doing it for for profit. I work a full-time job, so I can do whatever I want, right?
So I lied. I have one more question for you. Going back to your blog, then I do this for a living. I interview people, so like when I'm listening to a discussion, questions pop up, and it's natural for me. I
Yeah, of course.
apologize.
No, it's no problem.
When you're writing the blog, then
Hmm.
are there things you won't touch? Are there things you're like no, or
Well,
anything goes?
so my philosophy is anything goes that's currently relevant, right? So it's like I just did a piece about the Ubisoft the thing about how like the higher ups were like sexist, right? Like it was like there was sexual harassment and there was also like censoring of female protagonists, right? So I did a post about that. But if you read my post is not like, oh, this is really bad. My post is actually about how like the sexual harassment is completely unacceptable because it's unprofessional and it's wrong. But the censoring female protagonist, that's kind of a business decision. So unless you can provide me the data to show that those decisions didn't make those games more successful, I'm not really against it because like they make top selling games, right? Like I said, I loved Origins and Origins sold very well and reviewed very well. And Origins was one of these games that were like said to be, it was supposed to be the wife was the main character, and then they changed it to the husband and they reworked the game
Right.
because the guy at the top was like, we don't want it to be a woman, even though the dev team apparently wanted it to be a woman.
Right.
And now after I played the game, I was like, you know what? I liked the the wife character, but I didn't like her, and like I didn't like her enough to where I would maybe have liked her as the main protagonist. Now you could say, well, that's because they had to change the writing to not make her as likable. But if she had been the main protagonist, they would have. So I don't know. But like, as far as the business decision of making Bayek the main character, I loved that game and I loved Bayek. So like, I can't sit here and say that was a bad decision because from a business standpoint, it wasn't a bad decision.
It's
So
difficult
like,
for me too because after I played the game, then all that came out. So like
exactly.
I enjoyed the character in the game, and then all this information comes out, and it's like, well, how do I process that? Because I enjoyed the game and the character, you know?
Exactly, right? So like for my blog, I don't really have an like there anything kind of goes, but it's anything in gaming, and sometimes I'll do movies and TV, but like so it's like I would never cross a line because gaming doesn't usually cross the line, right? Like I guess yes, there could be an example like Agony where like somebody tries to make a game that's just like offensive and insulting and like ridiculous, and then maybe that would cause me to go too far. But
Right.
like I didn't even play Agony because it was apparently so glitchy and terrible that it wasn't even worth playing, so I just didn't play it.
Right.
But so like yeah, the only way that I would ever like I've never had that happen where a game related subject was crossing the line. So like I've never really had this moment where I had to go, is that too far? Like because games haven't gone too far yet. Like if games go too far, maybe I'll have to have that discussion. But I've yet to have a scenario where the game put me in a place where I had to write about something that I was like, oh, maybe I can't make this kind of like I've never had that happen.
Right.
So like I won't like I've never I've done racism because racism comes up in gaming.
Oh, of course.
I've done religion. Religion has come up in gaming. I've done politics because it comes up in gaming. So like I've never had anything come up where it was like, oh, this is too much, because it's just like, well, gaming hasn't pushed that line yet. So
Right.
maybe one day that'll happen, but like I haven't had a game do that to me yet, so I can't say, because like I don't just arbitrarily make up topics. Like I look at what's current and what I'm playing and what's in the news, and then I'll discuss those topics. So
Right.
yeah.
So before I go dive into the next part of the show, we're at 50 minutes. How are you on time? Do you have to be anywhere?
No,
You're cool?
the day is open for me.
We can
Yeah,
talk for
we can talk for as long as you want. Like it's only 3 p.m. for me. I don't have any
yeah.
plans.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Saturday. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
it is whatever.
Awesome. So I want to get into some video games. Kind of.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what you've been playing. Let's talk about some of the games that maybe you're into right now. Some of the games you beat recently. Just kind of.
Yeah.
Let's start with one, and we can kind of talk about it.
Yeah, so I like I said, I just started Ghost of Tsushima like 2 days ago. Like I've
So
only played
good.
2 hours of the game. I love the game. Like
So good.
as soon as I started it, like I am streaming it, and as soon as I started it, I was like, oh, I shouldn't stream this game. I just want to enjoy it on my own. Like it's so good. Like fine. And so like it's such a it's beautiful, it's well written, it's poetic, the gameplay's good. Like it's such a great game. But I haven't even really sunk my teeth into it far enough yet because it's like
I watched your first 2 hours actually. Well, I kind of
yeah,
skimmed through them. I skimmed through.
yeah.
I will say that I personally I did the Kurosawa mode through the whole
See,
story.
I thought about it and I was just like, I don't want to play this game in black and white. Like, look
Oh,
at these colors.
but I love
Look at
black.
these colors.
I love black and white. It's my favorite. And
Okay,
like
yeah. I mean,
a lot of games are high contrast, like
yeah,
colory,
yeah.
high
Like, well,
saturation.
because it's like,
So they gave me I mean, as a filmmaker,
yeah, no, yeah. I mean,
Kurosawa
I
is like
love
my
Kurosawa
favorite.
film.
Kurosawa is my favorite director of all time. So like,
Okay, yeah.
but I'm just. It's cool that you chose your choice. It's fine. Most people
Like,
did.
well, like, because for me, I live in Asia, so it's like I've seen cherry blossoms in real life,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I was like, I want to see that in the game. Like, I want to compare it. Like, I
Mm.
want to, and so that's why I was like, oh, I gotta see. Like, they're telling me this is like Japan and the color, and I'm like, okay, I gotta see. Like, so I
You
had to
got to
do
hold
it.
on to your butts, dude. It's such a good game, dude. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anything, but I loved it. So
Yeah, but yeah, I'm also playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey off stream. So I just like I'm like 50 hours in. I like it, but Origins is a better game.
no,
Like
negative.
there's changes they've made. You know, there's like Origins because like if you play all the games before Origins, it's not
Yeah.
an RPG. Like the game was an
Right.
action parkour game.
Right.
And then Origin sort of went, let's rework the formula, which I think was a great idea having now played it. Like I just played Origins a couple months ago,
I
right?
agree.
And so like I was like, yes, I get it. This was a good decision. This was well done. I love this game. It's in my top 3 Assassin's Creeds. The problem I have with Odyssey is it goes too far into RPG. Like it keeps going past Origins into RPG, and then there's things that they've removed that I loved about Origins that I can't do in Odyssey because it's too
There
RPG.
are things they removed. Uh, I mean, I spent over 200 some plus hours in Odyssey.
Because the map is too big.
No,
Right?
but the
That's why
map,
you spend
but
so
the
long.
map,
The map
but
big.
the environment is so much more beautiful than Egypt. It's just
Well,
like
yes, but that's because Egypt is set in a desert. I agree.
exactly.
Right?
And I
But
think
like,
and I
but
think and I
but see,
think and I think Cassandra is a way better character. She's way more
see,
entertaining and
I chose
fun.
Alexios,
Oh,
which
that's the
I
worst. That's the worst
multiple people.
choice.
Yeah, see, multiple people have told me that, and I didn't know. Like, I just sort of went in, and the reason I chose Alexios is because I had already decided I'm going to play the female Ivor in Valhalla.
That's
So I was
fine.
just like, well, okay, let me go male here because I'm going to go female for the next one. So I just like to rotate it.
I feel like
But
in
so
Valhalla you can switch between though.
you can, but I'm not going to. I'm
Okay.
going to commit to the female at the beginning and play the whole game as a female.
So
But
obviously
so
in
like,
Odyssey you know that I don't know how far are you in
I'm,
Odyssey?
I'm 50 hours in.
Oh,
So
so you
I'm
know that Cassandra's the villain.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know going in. I like that might have changed my choice if I had known that. Like I didn't know. But
She's
so
just a better actress.
that's
Anyway.
yeah, that's what I think you or somebody else tweeted me that. But basically I agree with you that Odyssey is a better looking setting than Origins. I 100% agree. But if you had given me the Origins gameplay in Odyssey, it would have probably been the perfect game. Like, for instance, the Predator arrow. I used that so much in Origins. It was my bread and butter. And then in Odyssey, they're like, you can use it with adrenaline. So you can do 6 shots and then no more. And I'm
Right.
like, no, but like, that's how I hunt. Like I want to take a fortress from the perch. Like I don't like stop making me have limits. Like right, like
I'm sorry,
there's
Rob. Sorry.
like I want it to be that like walking the line between RPG and action game that Origins is. Because I agree, I like the Odyssey setting better. I like fighting the mythological creatures. I like meeting Socrates and Herodotus. Like I love ancient Greek mythology. I love the setting. I like the map. It is kind of too big, but it's a
It
great
is.
looking
It's
map.
massive. It's
Like,
too massive.
but like the gameplay for Odyssey just is not as good for me as Origins is. Like Origins is just like
Fair
this
enough.
perfect
Fair enough.
like balance. And that's why I was like, why did you go too far? Like you had it in, and it was like you hit the perfect spot.
Well, I
and then you
feel
just
that's the
kept
interesting
going.
thing when you have two different studios, because Origin Studio is the same studio that's making Valhalla. So like I feel like you're gonna have more
Well,
complex combat versus than Odyssey.
I've tried Valhalla.
Oh, it's not as good.
No, it's more like Odyssey.
That's what I'm.
It's
Oh, is it?
yeah, it's closer to Odyssey than it is to Origins. From what I tried, it's closer to Odyssey, and I think that's just because that's how the franchise works. Like it builds off of itself. So like if they went backwards, people would go, "Wait, that's weird," right? Like, right now, I don't know why we got rid of dual air assassinations because that was
Yeah.
5 games ago, and then they just took it away.
Whoa, exactly.
And you're like,
what
"Wait
the
a minute,
fuck's up
like,
with that shit? Like, why can't I kill two dudes?
Yeah, like
I totally agree with that shit.
I don't know why they got rid of that because that was such a key move back in the day.
I
Right?
have a stupid question. So, did you play Breath of the Wild?
Yes.
Okay.
Loved it.
So, obviously, you loved it, but Origins wasn't being made at the same time Breath of the Wild was being made.
Okay.
So
I didn't play them at the same time though.
I know you didn't, but they release, and then Breath of the Wild gets love for all these things it does, but ultimately you kind of do a lot of the same shit in Origins.
I agree, but the problem with that, okay, there's a few issues. First of all, Odyssey or Origins is running as a Xbox, PlayStation, PC game. Breath of the Wild is running as a Nintendo Switch game. So the Switch cannot accomplish the same things that you can accomplish on those other platforms.
No, but I'm just talking about basic like climbing, setting shit on fire. All these things that this Breath of the Wild changed. Like climbing towers to reveal. Like Assassin's Creed's been doing that. Like, how is Breath of the Wild this game that changed open world when really it's just aping a lot of shit that open world games have been doing forever?
Well, the way I would answer that question is, first of all, a lot of the people who play Zelda games don't necessarily play Assassin's Creed, right? So like a lot of the Japan audience is your Zelda. A lot of people will always go play a Zelda game. Like Zelda sells consoles, right? Like the Switch gets record numbers because you put out a new Zelda, right? So a lot of people didn't play Assassin's Creed Origins. They didn't play,
of course,
those Assassin's Creeds, but they played Zelda. So for them, they're like, I've never seen this before, which is, not anybody's fault. It's just people tend to assume that the first time they see something is the first time it existed, even though that's not the case, right? So that's the first thing. But the second thing is also like a lot of things about Origins were sort of coming out of this long franchise that people were tired of.
Exactly.
Right? Like people were tired of Assassin's Creed. So a lot of people weren't even really looking at Assassin's Creed when Origins came out. They were like, I'm done with it. Whereas like with Breath of the Wild, everybody was like, when is the next Zelda coming out? I've waited, since Twilight Princess, which a lot of people didn't even like. So they're like, where is my next Zelda? So like, I think that a lot of it comes down to sort of the marketing power of Breath of the Wild versus Origins, right? Like they're both big games. They're both AAAs. They're both famous franchises. But like Zelda just has more power in marketing.
I guess within the marketing, but I also feel within journalism. There's a lot of critics. There's a lot of critics that say, "Oh, this game is doing things we've never done before," and it's and it's like, and it's a 10. It's a perfect 10. And it's like, and I play it on the Wii. I played it on the Wii U, mind you. And I'm playing it, and I'm like, all this shit aside from the cooking game is nothing different that I've ever played in any other fucking game. I don't, and that's my
I,
personal
I
opinion, and that's all. I don't want to
But see,
harp on that, but
I think it comes down to the bias of Nintendo users, where you'd say a Nintendo game has never had this before.
okay.
A Nintendo game has never had this big open world with these, the horses that you can just sort of catch from the wild, and like the towers.
Red
and
Dead Redemption,
like
PS3, Xbox 360.
yeah, again, not Nintendo. See, that's what I'm
I
saying.
know, but I'm just saying, it's happened.
Nintendo,
It's happened.
yes. I agree. I agree that like there's not much about Breath of the Wild that's like fully original. I agree. But for Nintendo, it's all pretty
It's
much
different.
all original,
It's different. It's
right?
totally different. I
And
get
so,
it. I get it.
I think that's a big. But I mean, but we've had that problem forever. Like there's stuff on console where they get it, and people on PC are like, we've had this for like 20 years.
Exactly.
We've had in-game chat for 20 years.
Is that
This
what
isn't
Nintendo's
new.
become? Nintendo's
Right.
like the lesser console. They're like, oh, we've had that for.
Right. Well, no, it's not even that it's the lesser. It's Nintendo plays their own game. They play their own audience. They don't compete with PlayStation and Xbox. Like they're just doing their own stuff. And so I think people judge them separately. And that's kind of why they can get away with stuff like that. And people go, oh my gosh, it's so revolutionary. And it's like, well, it's revolutionary for Nintendo, but there are people who only play Nintendo, right? Like,
Right.
Nintendo has a larger
Right.
casual audience than the other platforms. So like there's people who will play Breath of the Wild and they're like, I've never played a game like this before because I haven't been playing PS3, PS2, I haven't been playing PC, right? So like Nintendo is hitting these audiences that aren't playing games, right? Like they're not like into gaming. So yeah, I got why Breath of the Wild got so much hype. It was because for the platform, that was all pretty much new. And to be honest, it's not my favorite Zelda game. I like the game, but like it's very different from the other Zeldas because it's this more open, thing. And like I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, I'm okay with open worlds not being so prolific anymore. Like we've kind of like because like if I look at my backlog, there's so many open world games. I'm like, I don't have time for all of these open world games. Like just give me a linear story at this point. Like I need to clear off some of this games from my backlog. Like I still haven't even started The Witcher 3. That I'm never like, when am I gonna have time to play The Witcher 3? And then it's gonna take me 1,000 hours to beat it. And I'm like,
nah, just 80 to 100 hours. You're fine. Like, great game though, bro.
I love Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. Like I just beat Witcher 2 this year because I'm just so busy with other things. And I built my PC to play The Witcher 2, right? Like, because like when I played Witcher 1 like 6 years ago, I couldn't run Witcher 2. So I was like, oh, I got to build a computer to play Witcher 2 because I didn't have a 360 at the time. I had sold mine.
You should have played Witcher. Why are you playing Shadow of Mordor when you should be playing Witcher 3?
I'm not going to stream Witcher 3. It's too long. It's too long.
All right.
Like I got a friend playing it right now, and he's like, I'm at 80 hours. I'm still in the first town.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
wow.
What?
Well, that's because he's playing that fucking card game, and he's just sinking hours in that shit.
I play a lot of Gwent on my phone. Like I love Gwent.
Speaking of your phone, and speaking of Nintendo, there's a game that you still play. No one I know still plays it, but you're still playing Pokemon Go, right?
I am. And okay, so the funny thing is, I was like ready to quit it. Like I was ready to finally quit. And then when they put out Sword and Shield and they connected it to Pokemon Go, it threw me back in because I was like, oh, I'm gonna play Sword. Like I was gonna play Sword and Shield, but then there was things about the trading that were annoying. So I just was like, I'll just play Sword, and I sold my copy of Shield.
What is it about it though? It just keeps you like in.
Well, like I'm saying now, it's because it connects directly to Sword, where I can move Pokemon over to Sword from Go. Okay. So that's what made me go back to it. But like I had finally been like, I'm gonna quit this. But then when they connected it to Sword, I was like, okay, I guess I'm back in. I try to get out, they keep pulling me back in. And so like I am still playing it. And
do you
I don't
feel
play it
awful?
nearly.
Do you feel awful when you like open it up and you just
I like they have actually been adding a lot of content. They're changing, like they just added Mega Evolutions like yesterday. Like they are evolving it. It's but like
fine. No shame.
I will definitely say like if it wasn't for Sword, I would have stopped. Like I would not be playing it anymore if not for Sword. Like I am tired of playing it. but I'm still playing it because it's tied to Sword, which I haven't finished because they have the DLC for Swords. I'm playing the DLC, and then they're gonna have another DLC. So like, there's a motivation to keep playing Go. But once I'm done with Sword, I will probably be done with Pokemon Go as well until the next Pokemon game, and then they'll drive me back in. And so like,
Any other games you want to like mention? You want to talk about? Like
I mean,
what have you been playing, bro?
I mean, I've been playing Fall Guys like everybody else.
Sure,
And
go
that's
for it. My
it's
last
stressful.
interview. He was playing Fall. He's been playing Fall Guys. I can't get into it. Can't get into it.
So I knew I hate being this. It's okay. So I have said this multiple times, and it always sounds weird to people, but like, uh, I can't remember the guy's name. He's like a very famous YouTuber who's like wears the hat. He wears the top hat, and
I don't know. That's
he's like he doesn't do like streaming. He does like these like informational videos. Like
information.
I can't remember his name, but he's very like famous, and so he calls himself the Cassandra of gaming, which is like, it's not his official name, but that's like a thing he says. And basically, Cassandra was this like ancient Greek oracle who like could predict things.
She was the hot chick in Wayne's World.
That too, and so basically, I feel similarly where I'm really good at predicting things in the gaming industry, but because I'm not famous, people miss my predictions.
Right. Okay.
And so like, I knew Fall Guys was going to be successful at the very first announcement trailer, like 2 or 3 years ago at E3. And the reason is because you probably remember the show MXC, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge on FX.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's what Fall Guys is.
Well, right.
It's like Takeshi's Castle.
It's like American Gladiator. It's like any of these kind of games.
Exactly, right? Those shows are super simple concepts that have always been loved by everybody because that sort of simple competitive obstacle course thing just appeals to people. So when then when I saw the announcement, I was like, why haven't we thought of this before? This is an obvious game.
Right.
Why have we never done this till now? This makes perfect sense. And I knew immediately it was going to be famous. And then I played the beta, and I could already tell in the beta how popular it was, because even in the beta, people were going crazy. And I was like, oh, this game is going to be like big. And
Are all studios looking at Fall Guys and saying, how do we make our battle royales this now? Do you think that's happening?
I think no, because I think battle royales are sort of becoming overdone. But what I do think is a lot of studios are now going to look at Fall Guys as social media, especially their Twitter. And they're going to say, how do we do that? How do we get this level of proliferation in our social media marketing? Because like Fall Guys is so popular that like random companies are like bidding money to just have a costume in the game to give to charity, and in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Like every company's like submitting costume ideas. Everybody's talking about the game. Everybody's reporting about the game. It's 7 million sales on Steam. Most played free game on PS4.
Beat out League of Legends on streaming on Twitch.
Exactly, right? So it's like, I think that's what companies are looking at. Like, how do we match this? And I mean, the answer to that question is, well, you probably can't, unless you can find another prolific old TV concept that's
it's a flash in the pan. I mean, it's like
it is. And that's what was interesting was the guy who runs the pitching at the studio did a tweet thread about like making the game, and he said, when I heard the idea, I was against it because I didn't want to do Battle Royale. He straight up was like, Battle Royale is dying. This is a bad idea. But then he, like, after he saw the concept, he was like, okay, I like this idea. And then everybody has kind of been like, yeah, this is a great idea. We love, like, everybody loved the idea. But even he was like reluctant because he was like, are we really trying to do a Battle Royale like now when we have all of this overplayed Battle Royale thing? And like, yeah, I think Battle Royale, I never liked the Battle Royale concept. Fall Guys is the first one I've played seriously. Like, I don't like PUBG. I don't like Fortnite. I don't like any of them except for Fall Guys. And part of that is just because I'm not really into shooting games, and they're all shooters before Fall Guys pretty much, except for some of those like weird obscure ones. And so like I knew Fall Guys was going to be successful, and I'm glad it is. but and it's the only one I play, but I only play it because I grew up watching MXC. Like if I hadn't have grown up watching those sorts of TV shows, I probably would have been like, I don't get this game. But it's still cute and fun, even if you
Well,
didn't watch
exactly.
those.
You take out the shooting, and then it enters a whole group of kids that can,
Exactly.
it's a whole level. It's like everyone can play it. There's
Yeah.
a
Like
competitive level, like all the top streamers are playing it, but there's a whole other level of like just parents and family
yeah,
playing it.
parents, families, siblings, like it's like, and I think that really is Nintendo, right? Like you're
It's
almost
very
shocked it's not on
Nintendo.
Switch
Exactly.
because it's like this is how Nintendo does their business, right? It's making content for everybody.
It's
It's
coming
you
from an
know
edgy developer like Devolver, which is
exactly right.
ridiculous. Like it's the
Yes.
most cotton candy fucking game they've ever released, and yet it just destroyed those guys.
Exactly.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Media.
I mean, I love that. I love those guys, but
Yep. Mhm.
I don't dig the game. I'm not really into the game, but I love the success and seeing it from an indie studio.
Yeah.
That's
It's
so
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm also playing. I'm still playing Animal Crossing. I am getting tired.
Where are
I
you?
am.
How many hours are you at?
Oh god, I'm at like 500 or 600 hours.
Holy shit,
Like,
my wife's only like 240.
like it's too much. It's too much. Like I'm now at a point where I play very casually, where like I'll just log in every day, find the 4 fossils. Uh, I'll do if there's like a special thing, like one of the like NPCs is there, like the visitors. I'll do their stuff and then I'll stop. But like I have played an exorbitant amount. Like
See, that's a game I'm just not interested in. What interests you about that game?
so I think that game did so well because it came out during COVID. And so it was like people really wanted a way to like live normal lives and connect with other people.
As
And
kids on an island.
that game lets you like build a community. It lets you go to other people's islands. It lets you interact with people. It lets you trade. So I think it really sort of replaced human interaction for a lot of people
Right.
at that time. And I will also say, I probably shouldn't admit it, it's great for playing while you're working from home. Like when I was like, I'm not working from home anymore. Like in Taiwan, we're back in the office. But like when I was in work from home, I played that game during like meetings because it's super casual.
Right.
So like you're like playing in a meeting on Zoom, and you're like playing it at the same time because you're just like, oh, I can like dig up weeds and I can catch fish and I can do this stuff, but I can also do this meeting. So like it's just sort of a game that was made at the right level of casual to where you can play it anytime on the train.
I get it.
While watching a movie, like it's just sort of like made.
I'd rather watch a movie though. What else,
so
man?
like,
What else? What else you playing?
Well, I played the Marvel's Avengers beta.
I played that too.
I was not happy.
I was let down.
I played the alpha I went to Gamescom last year, actually, because I was competing in a competition. And while there, I tried the alpha, and the alpha was just the opening story section.
I read your blog,
yeah, and I loved it. I loved the alpha because it was just the story part, and I was like, "This is really cool."
And it was directed. It was directed story.
Yeah, exactly. And I was excited. And then I played the beta, and I'm like, "Oh,
grind,
is there any way I can just play the story part and not play in it the grind?"
Exactly.
Like it's just not exciting. You know what though? And I've talked to people about it, and I can't tell you why the game is bad.
It's not bad.
I can't tell you like that there's a specific problem. The gameplay works, the mechanics work. There are some things that I would change, like Hulk doesn't feel like epic enough and stuff, but like it's not a bad game, but it's just boring. It's just like you're playing it and you're just like, I'm not excited to play.
The only thing I can think is like on a Friday night, you get 4 dudes together and you're drinking and you're fucking playing a game and you're just bullshitting and the game is happening,
Exactly. Like I liked playing it when I played it with friends, but when I was just playing it, it was like, this is not exciting. Like, how did you make the Avengers boring? Like,
I did like the thing that you could like, if you're playing solo, you can have all those
AI.
Other guys with you.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool. But then the game the game sucks.
Well, like the problem with the AI is they took away so many functions that you would want from the AI. Like you can't switch characters. You can't open certain doors if you're not using the right character, even if the AI has the ability. You can't. It's like, okay, you made all this AI, but you took away all the uses of having that AI with you. So it's like they really need to just sort of shift the focus of the game, I guess, because like it's not a bad game, but it's just not exciting. And I think it's so crazy that they put out the Suicide Squad trailer, and everybody's like, "This is the game I want to play. I'm waiting for this." I
Really?
got a friend.
I don't even know if I'm excited for
I
that.
had a friend who saw that trailer, and he was like, "Goodbye, Avengers."
Yeah. I don't even know if I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the Gotham Knights game.
Nice. Yep.
I don't know if
They just announced yesterday that they're gonna like all the things you don't like about Avengers. They're not doing in Gotham Knights. They're like you can switch characters. You can have two of the same character on the map at the same time. You can like the only thing people are unhappy about is like, can I get 4-player co-op? Like you only have 2-player co-op. I want 4-player. Like that's the only thing people are complaining about now. They're just like, give me 4-player and it's a perfect game from what we've heard. Like,
Do you think that but that Avengers game is still going to sell? It's probably going to do really well, don't you think?
It will because of, and they're going to keep adding characters. So I'm assuming it's going to be like No Man's Sky, where it's going to tank at the beginning, but sell some copies. But then they're going to patch it over time, and then eventually it's going to get to the game you want it to be, and then people will be like, "Oh, it's better now!" Like, because like No Man's Sky, that's like now when you ask somebody about No Man's Sky, and I still haven't played No Man's Sky, but if you ask people today, they go, "Oh, it's great now. They fixed it."
I thought it was great from the beginning. Honestly,
I didn't try it at the beginning because I was like, after hearing all the stuff, I was like, oh, I guess I'm not going to pick this up.
It was
because like when I saw it, I remember thinking this is not going to do well. When I first started reading about it, and I put that on my blog as well. I wrote about it because I was like, the things being said here don't strike me as good for most people in the like. And then exactly what I thought was going to happen, where everybody started complaining. Everybody started saying like, oh, this is boring and blah, blah. And I was like, see, that's what I said was going to happen. And then they patched it. To their credit, they took it seriously. They kept working on it. And now people go, oh, it's so fun. But like, I kind of, when it released, I was not confident. And I was right, you know, and so good for them that they were able to fix it.
But I thought it was a great game at the beginning. So I feel like that was the vocal minority talking shit about the game, because I feel like the game, aside from the multiplayer, was everything they said it was, and it ran really well. It played well. I had a lot of fun with it. I spent like 50 hours before the new patch. So I don't know.
I was never going to play a game where the premise was there is no ending. Like for me, that was just like, wait, mining to no end. That's not. Right. I don't have time for that. Like I have too many games in my backlog for a never-ending mining game, and I don't even play Minecraft. Like I don't like repetitive mining.
Like, right. Survivor games or that kind of shit. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So what else? Anything else?
Game. I mean, that's a lot of things I've been playing recently. Like there's others. Like I played Hellblade a couple months ago. Really liked it. I played.
Wait. Hold on. You liked Hellblade? It's a great game.
I did.
I platinumed it. It's an awesome game. Nice. Did you like it enough that you're going to buy an Xbox Series X?
No, because I have a gaming PC.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Game Pass, baby. Game Pass, baby.
Like I'm just gonna play it on PC. Like, yeah, I was like, oh, Xbox is gonna put all their games on PC. I have a PC.
All right.
Okay.
Why buy it on? Exactly. Yeah. Isn't that weird? Like, why even have a console that's gonna cost about the amount of a PC when you can just have a PC with Game Pass?
I don't know why you would buy an Xbox Series X in 2020 or 2021 when they're going to have all the games on PC. Like I can't fathom the thinking. Like I know part of it is like, well, an Xbox is technically cheaper than a PC at startup. That's technically true.
Barely.
But like you can get a decent enough PC if you don't need to run it on like ultra. Like so yeah, like I would never buy an Xbox because I have a PC and I'm very happy with my PC, and I will play Hellblade 2. I will play I'm trying to think of the other Xbox exclusives.
Halo Infinite.
No, I haven't played Halo since Halo 3.
All I'm saying is that is a game you could play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I don't see any reason to buy an Xbox, and I'll play games like Bounded or what's where the tiny one where you're like the bug one.
The bug one?
It's like Honey I Shrunk the Kids, the game basically.
Oh, it's called like Grounded. Is it Grounded?
Yeah, something like I'll try that game on PC eventually, like if I have time. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna buy an Xbox to play it, but yeah, like they like the Xbox presentation they did recently, I was like, there's some games here I'll try on PC. Like,
Is there any other particular subjects you wanted to bring up, or any burning like industry shit you wanted to talk about? Like you wanted to vent on our show? You could vent it on our show. You could say, "It's like I've been listening to the Couch Co-op Show, and it's the worst podcast I've ever heard." We could talk about that. I don't care. I'm just
I am. I mean, I feel like I recently the big sorts of issues we've kind of got, like, it's like the Ubisoft thing, the Black Deadshot thing. I got so angry about that I
which
wrote.
is stupid because in the movie he's a Black Deadshot.
Well, yeah, but so basically what I did, which it's going to get published next week on my blog, is I wrote a 6-page blog post, which is very long for a blog post. Not the longest I've written, but like
you do write a lot, man. I am like you like I'm reading those and it's like, well, I'm gonna just kind of skim this paragraph.
Yeah, like a lot of people
you write a lot.
They're too long, and they're too long for the modern audience.
Do you write that at work? No, don't answer that.
Well, no. So I write in lots of different times, and I think of things at different places. And actually, I'm a writer for work. I do copywriting as well. Like I write.
Okay.
I'm always I write screenplays. I write the blog. I write for work. Like I write. I like writing. And but so I went through the canon of all of the Arkham games, and I proved that him being a black guy, I'm making some assumptions about who he is. Like, I'm not assuming he's the original Floyd Lawton. Like, I have, like, in the blog post, I talk about, like, who I think he is or who he could be. And, like, the canon all lines up fine. He can be a black guy. Whether or not they actually address it in the game or they just say, this is him, deal with it, I don't know.
But it shouldn't even matter, really. Right?
I mean, it only matters in a world of canon, which I do agree. I believe canon's important, whether it's Star Wars or it's a video game or whatever.
DC, even during this DC fandom, has already said that their canon isn't important. They have a new Batman coming out, and then they have 2 Batmans that are going to be in their Flash movie. So, like, none of that shit matters.
You're not wrong. DC has lots of issues with canon in every medium. But like I'm fine with people complaining about canon. What I'm not fine with is people saying they have a problem with the canon and then not actually looking at the canon to verify.
Right, okay.
Because you can use the canon of the Arkhamverse to verify why he can be a black guy, which I did. And then it's like, okay, then this is a non-issue. You're complaining just because like you're probably a racist. Like you probably didn't take the time to actually look at the canon and you're just saying canon because it's easy to say. Because like it works with the canon.
Well,
so if it didn't,
DJ, I don't know if you're aware of this, but half of America is racist.
Are we still at half? I thought we were at like 30-40%. Like
at least 43%, I think.
Yeah, 42%. Like like we're right on the thing, and like like did you see Jim Gaffigan?
Oh shit, dude!
I was
I like
shocked.
fucking off that Karen, man.
I have watched Jim Gaffigan do stand up for like more than 10 years, and I've never seen him curse. He's a very conservative.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of his stand-ups and just him in general.
Performed for the Pope. He has literally performed for the Pope. He's that conservative of a Catholic comic, and even he got so angry about Trump that he finally had to go off. And I was like, wow, that's.
I kind of feel like it's funny though that the Karen made a comment and then he's like, "Fuck you, Karen." Like that seemed like the perfect
end. That was the perfect end.
Like this is Karen. All right. Anyway, I mean, I think a lot of us are fed up over here, and
I mean, yeah, like I'm not gonna lie. One of the reasons I moved to Taiwan was like the politics of America, and I mean, I came here before Trump was elected. But like I came like right before he was elected. So it was like I kind of saw the writing on the wall in a way. And then I just was like, yeah, I don't need to come. I don't need to live in America right now. And I have the option to leave. Most Americans don't have the option to leave. Right. Which is why I get so angry when people go, oh, if you don't like it, just leave. And it's like, yeah, it's not that easy to leave. Like I've left. Like it's hard. Like I get why people can't just leave. nor should they have to leave. You shouldn't have to leave your country of birth because
Right.
a political group is, doing bullshit. So like, it's just like it's all a screwed up thing.
I have a question. Like you're over
Yeah,
there now, Thailand, doing what you're doing. Is
Taiwan,
Oh,
Taiwan.
sorry, Taiwan. Uh, I apologize. Are you ever gonna come back? Are you there forever? Is is it your work?
Well,
Is it
so
are you there for work?
So yeah, I am here for work, but my wife is also a Taiwanese citizen. We just got married last year, so she actually would like to go back to the U.S. She likes the U.S. and I'm like, no, we're not going back anytime soon. But yes, I am here working. I will get permanent residency in next month actually,
Oh,
because if you've
awesome,
been
awesome.
here for 5 years working, you can get permanent residency. So I'm going to get
Congrats.
permanent residency. Thank you. But so like I never say it's permanent, but I say it's semi-permanent. Because anything could happen. Like the problem with the world today is there's no great place to be. Like Taiwan's great, but China could invade at any moment. America's great, but it's got Trump in office right now and Republicans going crazy. Europe is, great in many ways, but then you also have a lot of dictators starting to sprout up. They have their own COVID problems. Like there's no great place to live anymore, right? Like
Right.
there's no place in the world where you could
New
just be like,
Zealand.
yeah, maybe New Zealand. Yeah, maybe New Zealand. But yeah, so like I love Taiwan. But there's also a lot of limits to what I can accomplish in Taiwan. Like as a screenwriter, for instance, it's much harder in Taiwan as somebody who doesn't write in Chinese. Like if I wrote screenplays in Chinese, I would have a lot more opportunity, but I write in English, so it's very hard to get your work even considered in Taiwan unless you want to do your own indie productions,
Right.
right? So that's definitely a limiting factor even for jobs. Like I have a good job, but like there's so many jobs that I can't get because I'm not fluent in Mandarin. And I mean, of course, the answer is like, well, learn Mandarin, but like Mandarin's hard. It's not like just a language you just go, oh yeah, I picked it up watching TV like Spanish or something. Like it's very difficult. So like I there are benefits to me leaving Taiwan. Like I've considered going to Europe, which my wife would also be very interested in. So but at this point, I'm kind of happy in Taiwan, and Taiwan's handled the COVID better than pretty much any other country. So like I'm in a
Especially the
good place.
U.S.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm in like a good place to be currently. So I'm not planning on making any moves in the near future, regardless.
Right.
Just that. And so yeah, I mean, it's like I have a dog.
How hard
I
is it
have
to
a
get the video games though? I mean, Ghost of
oh no, we
Tsushima,
get
you just
so,
finally got
so
it.
well, so that's actually not the fault of Taiwan. That's the fault of PlayStation.
Oh,
So
fucking PlayStation.
Taiwan, Taiwan gets every game. We get all the Japanese import games. We get all the American games. We get every game. Like Taiwan's great because you can get everything from everywhere. Um, the problem is region locked content. So the Switch, I can go to a store and buy any Switch game I want, including the Japanese games that America won't get. And they work on my Switch because Switch has no region locks. Like
Right.
somehow Nintendo went from last place on that issue to the absolute best on that issue. And so I go to the store, I can just buy a physical version of any Switch game and I can just play it. The problem with PlayStation games is that they always say we're not region locked with our discs, but that's not true because the DLC is still region locked. So your DLC is locked to your account, which is locked to your disc. So it's like if I buy a game here in Taiwan for PS4, like Ghost of Tsushima, which we got, I can't use that disc on my US PSN account, which I've had for more than 10 years, and get my DLC content
Right.
because it's a Taiwan version of the disc. So like I could just go full digital, which I don't want to do. I like physical copies of games. And so that's why it took me so long to get Ghost of Tsushima was I had to order it in the US, which I pre-ordered it to get the Steelbook version, had to mail it to my mom's house in the US and then wait for her to mail it to me in Taiwan. Now, the simple solution to that for the PS5, which PlayStation still has not given an answer on, I've asked many times, is are there going to be region locks on the PS5? Or is it going to be like Nintendo where it's open content? If it's open content, I will have no problem. I'll go buy a PS5 disc-based version. I'll buy my games in Taiwan. I will never have this issue again. But if they're going to do the same bullshit with the region locking for the DLC, well, then I have to make a decision. Like, do I just go full digital for the PS5? Like, do I stop buying physical games for PlayStation? Because it's so troublesome to have to buy games this way and pay the extra shipping of getting them over here.
Of course.
So it's like, I would love to just go into the store and buy a PS5 game or PS4 game in Taiwan because they have all the games. Like, it's not an issue of distribution. It's an issue of region locked content. And it shouldn't be like that in 2020. Like, we shouldn't still be having this issue, but we just still have this issue for whatever reason.
You have big corporations and they can make money, and that's what they want, man.
But it's not even about money because I'm going to buy the game. I'm going to buy the DLC. I just need to be able to buy it here and use it on my American account.
That's true.
Right? Like, it's like, and I have an American account because I'm an American. I was born in America. I lived in America for the first 23 years of my life. Like, I have American gaming like accounts, like, you know,
those higher ups in that office don't think about that shit, man.
They don't because it's rare. My situation is very rare that a foreigner is living in another country who plays games a lot and who wants to buy physical versions and like cares about DLC. Like, it's a niche enough problem to where they just say it doesn't matter to us.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's a shame. But that's why, like, I asked them, I've tweeted them multiple times, hoping to get any sort of response. Like, I care about this issue because it affects me. But most people don't care.
We don't even have a price yet. So you need to take a number and sit down.
So yesterday, a friend of mine sends me a message. He goes, "Hey, man, I just saw this news report that in Germany, they leaked the price. And it was like 1,000 euros for a PS5. And it was like, what? There's no way anybody pays.
There's no way.
No way anybody pays 1,000 euros. Now, this was the I think it was like the 2 terabyte version. So it was like a higher end SSD version, which like M.2 SSDs are expensive still, which sucks, but they are.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
And so like, I get the argument, but yeah, nobody's going to pay that. Like, nobody's going to pay that price. Like, it's just not going to happen.
It's coming out in November, so we got to get the price soon.
I'm not buying it day one. I'm going to wait for the PS5 Pro because like, I got really angry about the PS4 Pro thing.
I'm buying it day one, baby.
I'm backlogged enough on my PS4 to where I don't feel the need to buy it day one. Like, and I know you could say, oh, you could play your PS4 games on the PS5, but I'm like, I don't really need to. Like, I'm good.
Fuck my backlog. Fuck my backlog.
Like, I've got too many games. I'm like, you know what? I can just ride the PS4.
Hey, do you listen to any other podcasts? Do you listen to gaming podcasts at all or no?
Not usually, but I will sometimes listen to, like, if somebody sends me one and goes, hey, this specific episode was really good, I'll listen to that. But
so you're gonna listen to this one, aren't you?
Probably. Yeah, probably. I like the guest. I like the guest a lot. But yeah, I don't listen to most of them normally. But that's curious. Podcasts in general. The only podcast I even semi regularly listen to is like, I used to listen to Joe Rogan's podcast a lot, but even that I don't listen to much anymore.
Don't listen
and
to that.
So like I'm just not a huge podcast guy.
That's fine. I just
but also I'm one of those people who can't write with noise.
Oh.
So like I have to write in silence.
Not even
like,
music?
Not usually. Like I can do like video editing with music. I can do stuff like a lot with music, but like when I'm writing, I need silence. So I write so much as we discussed. So like,
jeez,
like I'm constantly too busy to have the time to listen to podcasts. So
I can't edit with music, but I can write with music. Oh,
I can't. I just like I've always written in silence. Even when I was like a pen and paper writer and didn't use computers to do my writing, like I've always needed silence, so I just maintained that. And it's hard now; like it's harder to have silence, you know, especially like my dog and stuff. Like, and I don't even have kids. Like, you know, I can't imagine being a parent trying to do it. So
yeah, I'm not like, a parent. I have a dog, but I'm not a parent. All right, so let's wrap this up a little bit.
All right.
Do you have any kind of couch co-optional things? Like you see a movie or read a book or read a comic or music?
Well, I would say currently I'm watching the Snowpiercer show on Netflix.
Oh, is that any good?
I really like it. Now, see, I loved the movie.
The movie's awesome.
The movie's awesome. The show is not in the same universe. It's like a rebooted canon thing. And you'll know, like when you start watching the show, you right away will notice things that are different, which will at first irritate you because you're like, oh, this is the movie wasn't like that. But like it's because the show is a much different scope.
Right.
But I like the show, like it grows on you. Like I'm only like maybe 7 episodes in.
What is that
but
on?
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And like it really they do a great job for what they're doing. Like I like it a lot. I recently watched the Watchmen show as well, which I really liked. It's very different. Like if you like I loved the movie by Zack Snyder, and I don't love many of Zack Snyder's movies. But I also love the graphic novel.
No, but that's I'm a huge comic book fan, dude. I have like I don't know, 12, 13 long boxes in my garage. I'm a huge comic book nerd. Watchmen is great. The Zack Snyder interpretation, I enjoy.
I like it.
It's probably his best film.
I think his ending is better than the graphic novel's ending, which
yeah.
you know you're maybe not allowed to say, but like I do think his ending was more sensible than the graphic novel's ending.
Yeah, makes more sense.
But the show is based on the graphic novel canon, and it was a good show. I liked it a lot. I know there's a lot of controversy because of the race stuff, but I actually thought it was really well done.
Does the Watchmen show then reference the ending from?
Yes. So
it actually that actually
the ending of the graphic novel. So like if you didn't read the graphic novel, you won't understand a lot that goes on in the show.
That's fucking crazy.
It's directly about that. And I think they did a great job. Like they really addressed like it. So yeah, it's definitely worth watching if you're a fan of the graphic novel.
I saw it.
And so yeah, I mean, there's it's like I haven't read a book in a long time, but there's books I love that I would recommend. Like I love Catch-22, which I feel like is super relevant right now. I loved Cloud Atlas, but I think the movie's actually better than the book. So if you've not seen the movie,
you like that movie?
I loved that movie.
Really?
And I did read the book, and the book I think is not as good as the movie because the book can't capture the reincarnation idea the way the movie does.
Wow, you should write did you write a blog about your love for that movie?
I mean, I watched the movie. It's been probably 6 years since I watched the movie.
I would love to see you watch that movie again and write about that because man, I have so many issues with that movie.
I mean, I've always really liked the sort of idea of like reincarnation stories, and they're hard to do well. I think they're done well. Like I've always thought about like how would I write a story like that, and I've never written one.
Okay.
And it's because it's hard to do, and I think they did a good job, and that's why I read the book. Actually, was because I liked the movie so much, and then I read the book and I was disappointed in the book.
What is about the movie that you like? I mean, just the reincarnation part.
It's just the fact that because that's what it is. What the point of it is more of just this idea of like souls entwined together that are constantly interacting in the same ways through lifetimes.
We shouldn't get into this. We should do a filmmaking podcast because like anyway, I don't want to get into this. But like it's awesome that you enjoy that movie. I wasn't a big fan of it, but man, we could talk about that forever. Okay, Cloud Atlas. You should move on to
but yeah, like I watch a lot of TV. I don't watch as many movies as I'd like currently. I just busy. Like I just watched Project Power yesterday because I just was like people were talking about it and stuff.
Was it good?
And I wasn't impressed. You know, I was like, I was really disappointed in like it wasn't bad. I don't want to say it was a bad movie, but it was like it was hyped up a lot. And like I even there's I don't know if you know what Hit Record is, but it's like this platform.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's fucking shit, and he's in that movie.
Yes, and so like on Hit Record, every so often they'll do a project that's like connected to a work. So like they do a lot for Beyond Good and Evil 2 actually on Hit Record. So it's like you can enter drawings, you can enter like I've entered
that game's never coming out.
Voice recording stuff I've recorded for that, like you can submit. So they did this Project Power thing where it was like they're making a rap song, and I was like, oh, well, I spit bars, so like let me throw down some track. I do, right? I don't consider myself a freestyler, but I write and I record, and so like
where can we find that? Where can we find that shit?
You can't because it's like you can find it on Hit Record if you want to go find my Project Power one.
But there's no SoundCloud for that shit.
Yeah, no, I don't, because I usually I have all these ideas for making like a full rap album, but I've never pursued it because I don't really do much production.
Okay.
I do writing and vocal.
All right.
So I have a little bit of production experience, but not enough to where I've ever tried to produce my own album.
Right.
I did produce one when I was younger, but it was no vocals. It was all just beats. So I do have one thing that I did many years ago. But so basically with the Project Power thing was they gave you the beat and they were like, just spit 8 bars. And then we'll take the best ones and we'll make our own rap track. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I wrote and I recorded I actually did 16 bars because like a verse is 16, and I was like, I can't just do 8 because that's half a verse and that's weird. So I did a full 16. I was like, no, I'm doing 16. And a lot of people did. Like a lot of people in the thing were like, I'm doing 16. And so like I submitted my verse, and I was like really into it. And I was like, oh, this movie sounds cool and this project sounds cool. And then like they didn't select mine for the rap track, which is fine. Like it's like hundreds of people submitted. Like,
Of
it's
course.
very competitive. But then I watched the movie and I was just like, this was not nearly as good as it was played up to be. I took the time to write a rap song or a rap verse. Like, and I just feel like disappointed. Like
Those corporate schmucks.
Yeah, like it was. I mean, the problem with it is, it's like when you watch it, you're like, how did Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jamie Foxx do this movie?
Oh,
Because
really?
it's not bad, but it's not like up to their like. It's definitely not up to Jamie Foxx's standard. Like Jamie Foxx, I think is a great actor. I love, Baby Driver. I love Collateral, which is one of his older movies, which is really good with Tom Cruise.
Well, both of them.
Like,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in great.
he's in Inception. He's in
yeah, he's only in good movies.
Yeah, he's in a number of good movies as well. And I watched this movie and I'm like, you know what? This script is below these actors. Like, it's like the concept was very good. What they were doing as a premise was like, oh yeah, I like this. But the way they executed it was just like,
it's that Netflix money, baby.
I guess, because like I can't get Netflix to look at my scripts, but like I've written scripts. I mean, it's every screenwriter says it, but it's like I have scripts better than that script.
Right.
I've written scripts better than that script, right? And I'm just like, and I don't even know who wrote that script. Like I didn't look into it, but I'm just like, this movie like doesn't do enough with like the concept. Like it's
even if it was written by one dude, by the time it hits Netflix, it's probably been written by a committee.
Yeah, it's edited. Yeah, of course, it's changed. That's how all screenplays work. But it was just like, if you watch the movie, there's clear issues of like they don't do any time on their antagonist. Right. Like it's like the sort of superpower, almost comic book type movie, but they don't talk about the antagonist at all, right? Like the villain is essentially in there for like 2 minutes, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, I don't have any sort of
not important
catharsis about why I care. It's just like, oh well, they kidnapped this person and they want to save the person. And you're like, okay, but like, make me care, make me get the, like you haven't built up this story. You basically just showed me almost 2 hours of Jamie Foxx killing people in really good action sequences. The action sequences were really well shot in that movie. And then it's like, but I don't care about them. Like, you haven't made me care about this movie. You've just made me see this concept, which is really cool, of like these like temporary superpowers. And like the premise was really good. Like whoever thought up the initial concept, great job. But the way they executed this plot was just like, no, you could have done more. And I actually thought it was going to be a TV show when I first heard about it. And after watching the movie, I was like, this probably should have been a TV show. Like, you could have developed this more than what you've done here.
Right.
And like, so yeah, it was just like really disappointing. Because I had such high expectations going into it, thinking, well, oh, hit record, and I did a rap, and Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and like and even other actors in it are like people you've seen. Like one of the villains was I can't remember his name, but he's the like in Westworld, he's that like bandit cowboy guy who is like leading those like they raid the town. They're like they keep raiding the town every day. He's like he's a Latino actor, I think.
Yeah. I know you're talking about.
I think he's Xerxes. I think he's Xerxes in 300 as well. I think it's the same actor, maybe. And he's in it. And you're just like, okay, you got a good cast, you got a good premise, but you just didn't get this script good. And it's just like, so it's just like I was sad. I was really sad.
So I shouldn't watch it, is what you're saying.
I mean, I'm not going to recommend it.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah, it really is, because it's just like, but it's a great premise. It's a great premise, but it's just not a great movie.
All right. Well, I will mention the two things I'm gonna recommend. So, I loved Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown.
Okay.
And I watched all 11 seasons.
Oh, wow.
I didn't watch the final season, and it's been he passed away.
Yeah.
And then just recently, as like I finally committed to watching it, and it's a weird season because his voice is kind of partly through it. Because obviously he passes away, so his voiceovers aren't always in the episodes, so they have other people kind of write stuff. But man, did I love that show, because that show was not about food. It wasn't. I mean, it's about food kind of, but it's about culture and it's about politics and it's and just about him as being a person. And I really appreciated that show, and it really hit me hard. And then in COVID, I've been having a really hard time. I've been dealing with some depression and shit. And just, that guy didn't make it till he was 44. He was still deep frying fries in a fryer at 44 years old, and he didn't finish his book. And then that book released, and then it became this big hit, and then he went off on this journey. So what I'm saying is, I'm 42. I'm not done yet. No one should be done yet. If you feel like you're done yet, you're not done yet. You have a whole life ahead of you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's hard to think. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's like, it's hard. It's hard to think that like you're going to be done. You're like, oh, I'm 30 and I'm washed up. But it's not true. You just need to find your voice. When you find your voice,
keep going.
Keep going. Write it.
No, I think about that a lot as a writer, because it's hard. Even if you're a great writer, you still, it's hard to break. It's hard because it's expensive. The business is competitive. And like at 31, you often, and part of it definitely comes from the fact that I went to an Ivy League college, so I see people I went to school with succeed and like get these epic things, and they're younger than me sometimes, or they're my age, and you're like, geez, like what am I doing? But like, the reality is, like you said, like a lot of people don't make it to, like, I think one of the, I didn't realize this until like I just learned this like a month ago, like the woman who wrote 50 Shades of Grey, which I have not read.
Right.
And I think her name's like L. James or something.
Sure.
So like the story of 50 Shades of Grey that's always told online is this was like a fan fiction posting. Okay, but so
of Twilight. Actually, it's a fan fiction of Twilight.
But that's actually that story told that way is not a fully encompassing story of what actually happened. So the way I always understood that story was that this was like a 17 or 18-year-old girl writing Twilight fan fiction, and then like somebody picked it up and went, ooh, and now this like teenage girl is running around famous and rich. That's actually not true.
Right.
L. James was 48 when she published 50 Shades of Grey. She was a 48-year-old woman.
Just an old pervert.
Who wrote those books, right?
Right.
And that really changes the perspective.
Right.
Right? Like, because it's not just, a 48-year-old woman published a novel. It's a 48-year-old woman was writing fan fiction on a blog, like a fan fiction blog site, which when you think about that concept is weird. Like, you don't think 48-year-old writing fan fiction on a blog site for Twilight. You're thinking like 17, 18, maybe 19-year-old girl, right?
Right.
And so like, it's like you said, like you got to keep grinding because everybody's got this like story, like Back to the Future. A lot of people don't know this. That script was denied like 30 or 40 times in Hollywood.
None of the studios wanted to make that shit.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's like Back to the Future, right? Like, and so like, you got to keep, and that's why I keep working. That's why like, even though my stream's not really big, I keep streaming even though my blog's not really popular, I keep blogging, even though like the stuff I do hasn't
Same
gotten
here.
picked up yet.
We
I
don't
keep
have a
working.
huge podcast. We have a really collective following that follows us, and we love them, and we just keep going. It's not for the money.
Exactly.
It's because
Exactly.
I enjoy doing it. And anyway, so that's my call out to everybody. Hey, also to me, like, just keep going. You're gonna be fine. I know it's tough right now. We're gonna be fine. My other thing that I just watched tonight, that I think just dropped this Friday, is I watched Bill and Ted Face the Music.
I haven't I
I'm
have
not-
not watched Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Don't-
I still have never watched the second one.
Oh well.
And so I'm like, I want to watch the second one before I watch the third one?
Watch the
'Cause I
second
love
one.
the first
You should watch the second one because there's a
yeah,
lot
but
of shit that
I-
ties into the third
I
one.
can't get the second one on Netflix, and all the other platforms don't work in Taiwan.
Oh,
Amazon Prime's not in Taiwan. HBO Max isn't in
You
Taiwan.
can't get a bootleg?
I mean, I'm sure I could pirate it. Yeah, but like, it's just like I don't even know why I haven't watched the second one. Like, it's so old at this point, but I've just never gotten to watch it.
I just
will watch
yeah,
the third one.
watch
I
it.
want to watch it, but
All
I need
I'm
to watch the second.
saying is the third one, it's kind of that hopeful, fun movie that we need right now. Like,
Okay.
I mean, I mean, I'm sure Bogus Journey would actually be that for you too, because like, they're just a positive group of guys that do this thing, and it's just really positive, and it's just a movie about positivity, and like,
How crazy is it that that's Keanu Reeves though? Like, looking at all of Keanu Reeves' career and all the movies that he's known for, the fact that he is like in this like
it's
sort
awesome.
of like
It's awesome.
like comedy, it's not a stoner comedy, and he's actually very outspoken about the fact that it's not a stoner comedy,
Which
like,
is
people always
awesome,
like,
actually.
yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah, like, but yeah, like when you look at like, Speed, John Wick, Matrix, Constantine, and he's always this like straight laced, intense, not intense, but like sort of like deadpan, straight faced guy.
It's
and
awesome.
then like
it's
like
awesome.
he's also in Bill and Ted, and you're just like, wow, like that's hilarious.
I mean, Bill and Ted. I mean, Keanu Reeves. He was Ted before I knew he was Keanu Reeves, because I was a kid and I fell in love with that movie. So he's always gonna be there in that. Anyway, that movie is charming and fun, and it is really actually funny parts in it, but it fits within the whole trilogy perfectly. And it doesn't let me down. It's if you like the first two films, you'll like the third one. And
that's good to hear.
It's
because I love the first one. And it's such a shame that we don't have George Carlin anymore. Because he was Rufus,
right.
in the first
one.
one.
Oh yeah. I won't ruin anything for you, but it's
okay.
I recommend it 100%. I actually bought it. I ended up. It's funny because like right now you can early access films, so you get like the early access for $19.99, or you can buy it for $24.99. So I'll just buy it. Why rent it for $20 when I can own it for $25? Anyway, that's the world we live in right now with COVID. Anyway.
Yep.
Man, DJMMT, it's been a pleasure. We have been talking for 2 hours.
I loved it.
Isn't it awesome? You know what? I hope we should do this again soon, or have you on. I would love to keep doing this. I mean, you are such a talkative fool.
No, yeah,
Anyway.
I don't have my own podcast, and it's one of those things I've always thought about, and it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, well, either you do it or you don't do it. Like, there's no excuse not to do it. If you want to do it, do it.
I mean,
and I'm just so busy with other projects that I never do it.
We're like,
but I love talking.
This is like episode 214. We've been trying to be weekly but we've taken breaks. We've had issues come up and go, and COVID has created this new situation. Usually it's 4 guys just circle jerking for an hour. And I was like, I'm tired of talking about the same fucking games. And so I was like, I'm going to reach out to Twitter and just see if there's some dudes that would rather talk to me than, and I'm so glad.
Yeah, I loved it. I would love to do it again. I would, and other podcasts, like if other people want to invite me, I'd love to do them. I like talking about games and movies. My wife doesn't
pimp out your addresses where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can definitely get me on Twitter, DJMMT at GameChangerDoc. That's I look at my Twitter too much, so like if you tweet me, I will respond very quickly. You can definitely find me on Twitch. I said just twitch.tv/DJMMT. I also have my YouTube channel, but currently mostly it's just my streams as well because I live stream to both Twitch and YouTube and Facebook concurrently. So like I have a Facebook page as well. So if you go to any of those platforms, you'll just find the links to the other platforms there. So yeah, and then my blog, which is a weekly blog. I do post every Wednesday, and I have never missed a week in like 6 years. Like I've kept a perfect record. And so those definitely the best places to catch me. And I'm very attentive to my comments and viewers. So if you send me a message, I will definitely get back to you, unless it's spam, of course. And I'm always open for suggestions as well. Like if there's a game people want to see streamed that they want me to stream, I'm happy to do it. If there's a blog idea people want to see me write about, I'm happy to take requests. So like I do like my content to be interactive. So yeah, like you can catch me on any of those platforms, and on any of those platforms you can find the links to all my other platforms. So just if you type in DJMMT to Google, something will come up for my platforms. So yeah.
Exactly. As a newbie, as I was stalking you for this whole show, if you go to Google DJMMT, you hit the search. The blog is like the first thing that pops up.
Yeah.
So like you'll find him, and on his blog he has all his addresses and shit, so you can find him. So DJMMT, you'll find him. Super fun, super just like this just really well written articles on. You had Ghost of Tsushima, you had the beta, you had something about, oh man, I'm forgetting right now, about you had had a trophy written thing. Yeah, there's a bunch
of content, like
lots
of different subjects. Pretty much anything in gaming or TV or movies that I think is like relevant, I'll talk about, and I try to like analyze it from a very serious standpoint. And also I try to make it it's stuff that like affects me and is personal to me, right? Like, so, and that's why I talk about trophies, because like I have a really weird ambivalent relationship with trophies, where like part of me wants to chase them and part of me doesn't want to chase them. And
exactly.
It's like, so that's the kind of stuff I talk about on the blog. So yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, you can definitely find my stuff. Just type in DJMMT. So yeah.
Well, DJ, thank you again for being on the show.
And yeah, I would love to do it again for sure.
So you know what? You just hang out here for a moment while I read my spiel, and then I'll get back to you and at the end, and we can kind of. Anyway, I want to thank you all for listening and remind you that you can leave feedback on Twitbook, Instaface, and Gramter at Couch Co-op Shows. Oh, one word, no hyphen. Remember to please subscribe, share, and maybe leave us a review on iTunes. And Spotify? Does Spotify even do reviews? I don't even know, but you can find us on Spotify. That would be awesome. I want to thank DJMMT for joining me on the couch for Couch Co-op. I'm Ian, reminding you to please be excellent to each other. Couch Co-op.